All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Psychedelic Lightshow review. I'm your host, Steve Pavlovsky. I'm here with my co-host, Krishna, and welcome to our show where we like to talk about all things Lightshow. This is episode 8, and we have a very, very, very special guest. We have live from France, Robert Chouraqui of Androide Lightshow. And the man knows a lot about European light shows. He's a pioneer in the European scene, especially in France. This is a real treat, for people like me and Chris, who, are of the American style and, versed in it. There's a whole other light shows happen all around the world. And so we're going to learn a lot about stuff today.
I want to just thank Robert. He supplied us with all kinds of beautiful slides. He made some double slides and filled the picture, and he just did a wonderful job. He's just really a great artist. And so these are his stuff. I'm just the guy delivering them for you guys. And so, Robert, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you. I'm pleased to be in this show. I will try to explain what is the European light show style, which is quite different from the US, less known, but as rich and creative, I think. So the main illustration will be coming from my older pictures. There are not many pictures from the time. Unfortunately, the films were not sensitive enough. So I will try to describe to my best the European style.
Awesome. Cool.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
I'm gonna start the slideshow here, guys. So I got to go to second screen. Here we go. Start and bam. There you go. Okay. So take it away, Robert.
I want to begin by this one, which is not a pioneer one. I had the pleasure to meet Steve in New York a few years ago, and it was a time for a meeting between Europe and the US scene, and also a meeting between two generations of light showmen.
Oh, yeah. And this was a generation ago. This was probably like 10 years ago, maybe? I think
no, less.
Oh, less? Oh, okay.
5 or 6.
I must have aged a bit in 6 years.
Oh, you look younger now. What do you mean? Okay, so let's go to the next slide, which is your opener slide. Here you go.
Cool.
So first I want to introduce what were our roots in Europe, which lead us to some slightly different visuals sometimes. So one of the main roots was the Bauhaus movement, photographers, architects, and there was a famous photographer, Nagy, who was playing a lot with the light. So you will see later that for many of the European light show, they use a lot of black and white contrasty coming from these roots.
Cool.
Also another very important route, I don't have a picture for that, but was the beat generation. And the beat generation was a lot famous in the US, but many of the main people then came to Paris, and it was a big influence. Also agitprop, there were agitprop radicals, and in Europe we were more yippies than hippies. You will see it later.
Yeah, Pete mentions Bauhaus a lot as inspiration for the Brotherhood of Light, starting out as one of the original people
also,
that did this stuff.
Yeah, and also Seymour Locke, who was the San Francisco State professor who really first showed Elias Romero. He was doing his experiments with an overhead projector. He was directly influenced by the Bauhaus movement, and he was actually trying to recreate some of those experiments that he saw. So here we have both sides of the Atlantic going back and forth.
Yeah, so an interview where he was saying that he picked the idea to Bauhaus to light through liquids.
Yeah.
Okay, next slide here, guys. Here we go.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this was also a big influence. All the kinetic movement. There was a big kinetic movement in Europe. So this guy was one of the main ones. And I put this slide because he was doing light show. He was doing a pre-light show. He had designed a machine for Lumia, and he was playing on a piano for Lumia and also for his kinetic machines. And he designed a club where we were resident. We will see later the club that he designed and where we had the pleasure to be a resident in
That's
70.
Beautiful. Cool.
Yeah, this is kind of a rear projection thing here, right? This box.
Yeah, I think it projects in the from behind in the box. You're right.
All right.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
really... Okay, let's go to this next artist.
So other influence is the op art. Again, some of the main influencers were in the 60s, early 60s, and this one was one of the famous one and one of the best one. Designer, I think. It's close to Moire also. And again,
Moray,
it's
right.
Moire. Again, it's black and white, Bridget Riley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Here's a follow-up to that one. And we used this art all the time in the light shows. I mean, it was, you bought the book and then you made the film positive, you put it on the overhead and spun it around or whatever. So really common stuff in the early light shows.
So Vasarely is another early creator of this. He began, I think, in 1958 by creating this op art thing. He was living close to me in Provence.
Cool.
Okay, let's go to the first light show slide. There you go.
So to describe the scene, I want to describe this couple. They are known sometimes on the name of Mark Boyle, but in fact it was a couple, Mark Boyle and his wife, Joanne Hills. The experiment began in 62 and their first public performance in 63 at the Marquee Club.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say that sometimes I see debate about who was the first. Was it Romero? It's wrong, I think, because the two scenes were completely in parallel. They were blind to one another. Mm-hmm. There was no internet, no magazine, no YouTube. So today you can see what the other ones are doing. At this time, it was nearly impossible. I saw them. I got the idea from them by seeing them in the club, but I have not seen him in the press. Yeah. So he was our contaminator. We are in a virus period. He was the first contaminator for all Europe.
So Mark Boyle, is this in France? I'm asking a question here. Was this in France?
No, he began in UK, in London mainly. He worked with a soft machine. He was the first one to create the liquid European style. Usually it's associated to Pink Floyd, but you will see later that Pink Floyd came later to the liquids. So he was the creator of this. There was very artist people. They also had the shows with the organic liquids, the saliva, the semen, all this. They were experimenting a lot.
Yeah. And they did, and it was also that later on their sons also work with them and the Boyle family. They actually moved on from, projections art altogether later on. And they actually have a show in New York City right now. And they would do like these reliefs, these three-dimensional reliefs of different parts of the world. It's a different topic, but, I just wanted to kind of talk about what you're saying, how, light shows, started in, Europe and they started it in America. And, there's definitely talk about, what came first. I think sometimes it might be like within context, like if we talk about in San Francisco, okay, then you can say there was like Elias Romero or whatever. But if you want to talk about light shows in general, I think anytime you have like a development of technology, when suddenly projectors become available, electricity, certain tools become available, it's not uncommon for people to just all kind of have the same idea at the same time. Light shows are like almost a natural thing for some of us that, we like to play with light. And so it's, it makes perfect sense that somebody else would say, oh, wow, I could use this to, move stuff on the screen with music, or I can do a performance with it, and it's kind of just something that, naturally, I think spontaneously occurred. And I'm sure there were other parts of the world as well where people were playing with it, but probably the scene probably, we had more of a scene in like, let's say, America and Europe, but I'm sure in other parts of the world, people have tried this. And,
there were some in Japan, some also in Australia. The main bases were Europe and due to the clubs and the bands, but there were other places.
Absolutely.
Israel, I saw. Also, the difference came, we will talk about this later. The difference in the style comes also from the projector.
Okay, I'm going to go to this next slide here. It's a UFO club.
Yeah, okay. So this is the famous London club.
famous London club. There were two famous. One was Middle Earth. The two big ones in London were Middle Earth and UFO Club. But UFO Club is also a name. After the club were closed, they were doing UFO at a roundhouse. So that's why usually it's mixed. So the big one, after 69, I think UFO and Middle Earth closed. And all the main events were at the Roundhouse, which was a bigger one, like for the Fillmore. This one was two small clubs. So the Roundhouse was a very big one.
Right, yeah.
So Marble, Angel and Hill were resident light show at UFO Club. And that's where Pink Floyd was playing. And the light show man from Pink Floyd picked the idea to go to a liquid light show.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Okay, so this shot here, this is the UFO Club. That's Pink Floyd in there, just so everybody knows. And you can see this line right here. That's actually the ceiling, and that's about an 8-foot ceiling, and then it kind of goes out at an angle like this, and that's light show on the roof of the room.
So it's a small place.
It's low ceiling, and then these slides, I believe, are not squash plates or fast plates or whatever you want to call them.
No, all these are
heat plates, not plates at all. Yeah.
Yeah, heat slides.
I will explain later. And they also, what is less known is they were reacting to the sound. When you had a big break, as it is 3 glasses, when you had a big break, the liquids were moving and people were thinking that we were synchronized with a sound, which was not really true.
Yeah, the mind likes to put things together. It's very good at that.
Yeah.
Okay, ready to go for
this next one?
Yeah, let's check out the next one.
There we go. Okay, there we go. So this one's really interesting.
In fact, I decided to show this one because the first Pink Floyd light show man was not at all in liquid. He was this guy. He was a designer of a very strange machine, like the kinetics that we saw earlier. And the light show was mainly kinetics with a lot of prism, strange moving forms.
Yeah, and there's actually if it's still online, there's actually a documentary about this. From I guess Pathé. Am I pronouncing that right?
Pathé.
Yeah, and it looks like they made a series of films or stuff from back then, but yeah, it's online. So if you look it up, there's a lot more information about him and his machines, and you can see it in action.
We will try to put them a comment after your video.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah.
So next one.
Okay, next one, sure. Let's go to that. Wait, I'm kind of screwed up here. Try that. There we go.
Okay, so what is interesting is first, the Pink Floyd did not begin with a liquid light show, but they turned to liquid by being at the same place, UFO, than Mark Boyle and the Soft Machine. So from that, they got the idea. And then two big, the real light show men for the Pink Floyd, apart from the first one, were Joe Gannon and Peter Wayne Wilson, which is still doing light show.
Still, yeah. Yeah, in one of the other talks I did, him, and then they were the Liquid Light Orchestra. They did some really amazing modified projectors. They took panny projectors, put them on their side, put these lenses and mirrors, and made these humongous, overhead projectors. And they've done some pretty big gigs. They did some of the record release parties for Pink Floyd recently, the Endless River. They might have done, I'm not sure if they did a David Gilmour release, but I know they definitely did that. And they did some stuff with the Sun Ra Orchestra, but very amazing and really talented people, those guys.
I want to make a note here. Wait, hold on. So the band UFO, which is a hard rock band with Michael Schenker, they named themselves after this club.
There was a band I didn't know.
Yeah, so that's little information because somebody asked him on this other show I watch, oh, where'd you get that name? Oh, we named it after the UFO Club. So
that's cool.
There you go. Next one.
So this one is again the UFO. Just we saw the picture. The guy is one of the Pink Floyd member. It was picture done for covers. So next one.
Next one. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, that's Sid Barrett there, right?
So now we changed theme. I don't want to stay only on London. Amsterdam was a big place also for bands and light show. And one of the famous club was Paradiso.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Cathy.
Paradiso is still open today, and they still do light shows there. It's kind of like the Fillmore of Amsterdam. And Greg Allman, the tour I did, played there, and so did Devin and Dwayne Betts. They played there. I wasn't at that particular show, but both the bands I work with did this gig. So
okay, Cathy Fortier, which is one of the members of Psychedelic Preservation Group, was doing light show there in '69. Their light show, Can Phallus, was resident there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful room. It's really a nice big room. Okay, next slide.
So
you good?
Next one. Yeah, this is to show that these clubs and the European light show were using also a lot, not only the liquids were different, but we were using a lot of slides. Mm-hmm. And slide, in French, we say concrete, I mean, with faces, with landscape, not only organic slides. I will explain later. We didn't have the same use of slide than what we show with a big box live by the light showman picking one slide. We had scenario for the slides. I will explain it later.
And these are all projections here on the ceiling. It's how does it comes in so like the bottom of the frog's hand, it's coming up so clean on the window. I'm just wondering how that.
Well, that's a wall. It's not a window. That's a window slide.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm going to break this picture down. You got the liquids over here. I'm going to break it down. You got liquids here.
I think it's a window. I think it's a window.
No, Paradiso doesn't have windows like that. It only has two in the back. This is a picture of a window.
It's like a big slide.
Yeah.
Right. So they're projecting like a scene.
They're projecting
like a train station.
Yeah, like
almost.
A train station. They're putting a monkey in the dark spot. They're putting this guy over here. They're putting this guy down here, and liquids over here. It's great. It's a collage. It's beautiful. Very excellent. Okay, is that good, Robert? You good?
Yeah.
Next. Okay, here we go.
So this is also a club in France, a famous club. In France, we didn't have light show clubs in Paris, but we had some in the Riviera, Côte d'Azur. Mm-hmm. And so we had the pleasure, Androide light show, to be resident in this one, which has been designed by Nicolas Chauffeur, the guide we saw earlier. Designed a lot of kinetics, and in fact, all the scene was plastic, metal. It was very nice to project on. There was no screen. We project a bit everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. What's that stuff in the top left corner? Do you know what's going on there? Is it like some? No, I'm talking the colored one where the lady is sitting.
This one.
The color one is probably, it's not my photo there, but it's in the club, and it's a reflection on the metal.
So it's like a Lumia.
They designed, like the guy was a specialist of Lumia, so he designed. That was not our projection, but he had designed the club with many lights, doing kind of Lumia on the walls.
Awesome. Okay. Good with that one?
Yeah.
There you go.
So this is to give you example of posters. Some for the UK are known. We had a lot of posters for the groups and for the bands. And what was good is that we were announced on these posters.
Yeah, I see your name there.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so that's good. We have posters. Okay, next. There we go.
Next. Okay, so this is a part on my light show. I had a few pictures from the time, black and white, because there were film in color was not enough sensitive. So this was an open air festival, and you see liquid European style, plus probably two slides alternating with color wheels over very rapidly. I will explain also how we use the slide later. Mm-hmm. Next. So this was inside, and you see through this, you see that we were using a lot of multi-screen things. Mm-hmm. So from left to right, the first one is surely a polarized geometric slide.
Okay.
Then you have a liquid with some moire or graphic slide, and then a graphic slide.
Right.
On this, you probably have one projector for the polarized, two projectors on the medium screen, and two other projector on the right one.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about the polarized slides, do you want to later on?
Yeah.
You'll tell us a bit about
later, I have example where you will see better how it works.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Okay. Let's go to this next one. This one's really cool. We showed an earlier show, but.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you saw it. You tried to explain. Well,
I tried.
90% right. No. You were thinking first that the left one was some overhead due probably to the round thing, which has been used by some of Lightshow. In fact, we use the same mask alternating with slide. The middle one is a slide, and around it you have a mask coming or going. The middle one is a liquid, European style. The face of a lady, it was a Vietnamese lady. It was also a radical. The Vietnamese lady was in polarized. So polarized make it going from negative to positive at a speed where you want. And the last one is liquid, maybe overhead. This one.
It looks like a squash plate, only because you really can't get that movement unless you press something together.
We use a bit of overhead, not many.
Yeah. Was it hard to find overhead projectors?
Yeah, it was hard. They're more expensive because we didn't tell the US Army, putting his stocks on the. So projector were easy to find, and we are more the culture of projector. Overhead were not so easy, not so many, so expensive.
Right.
Okay,
and then
ready?
You see the poster is there, and then you guys and an Android light show is on there as well.
Yeah. That's one of the famous French group that we work a lot with. Next one.
Great shot. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
So here you see the picture that I have used earlier.
Yeah, right here. This one.
So we were. I will explain also later. We were creating slides by projecting our light show at home on a white wall, and with a stand, we were able to photograph our light show and then to reuse it. So what you see sometimes in the light show is a second generation effect.
Right. So it might kind of be like nowadays if we use a computer where we record ourselves and then use it again, and then I have clips where I've then composited them with other clips and then I throw them in again and so on. So
it's the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next. So this is another example. You have the example on the right of what is a slide organic texture, and it change a lot. The color change a lot depending on the rotation of. I will show you later what is polarized. Next one.
Polarized.
Just maybe the liquid slide in the middle. We were also using some chemical reaction.
Oh, really? That's not a plate, huh?
That's why you have a small bubbles. If it was each slide, usually you got some kind of flowers. So this one is
some sort of chemical. What about this stuff on the right side? Is that that looks almost like what's it called? Like if you take like an LCD screen or something, and like
that's like this same shot here is there. Correct?
Yeah.
See, he's got a color example.
It's the same slide.
It's a still slide. It's a picture.
No. It's a polarized slide. So
it's a polarized slide
with something which is turning, which I will show you later.
Right.
Yeah.
Polarized.
Oh, I see. You put that on. Okay.
You choose the speed, and it change from the color change in reverse. It looks like negative, positive, but with very strange color. So we use. I will have more examples. Cellophane, you say? Cellotape.
Oh, cellophane.
Cellophane. All kind of plastic works.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
There we go. That's the liquid there.
So that's one of my liquid at Opera House in 69. And from there, I will try to introduce the other French light show, main French light show. So one of the most famous one is Mandala, and then they split in Open Light and Bar Museum, and another one is Vasco. So I would describe them each.
This guy, okay. You want to see? Here's Mandala. Here we go.
Next, okay, Mandala. So again, you will see that they was using a lot of slides.
Yeah, definitely. A comic book slide looks like.
Comics books.
That's
we
cool.
were picking. Next one.
Of course, you got to have the nude girl too, you know.
Yeah, I put some Photoshop in order not to.
Yeah, I saw that.
So YouTube doesn't cut us off.
So Mandala split in two groups: Open Light, which stay longer. Open Light was a big one. They had a lot of projectors.
Okay.
And they were doing a 360-degree light show.
It's like all around the room.
All around the room.
Wow.
I see they're in the middle and it's projecting all around. Yeah.
You see, and
wow.
They are looking at another place where it's projected also.
Great.
Well, that's cool. So that's the light show. That's not the band. That's actually the light show.
That's a light show.
Wow.
That's a light show.
That's cool.
Okay, you good with that?
Just on that, maybe I could say that we nearly never, not ourselves, not many of the light show, were using from back. We were always projecting from front.
From front projection, yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
Usually on some scaffolding like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do 90% front projection still today.
And not many of us were resident.
Yeah,
right.
Fillmore East. Fillmore East was.
The good thing for Joshua, who were resident for a long time, for us, each night we had to go back with all the projector and come back with that.
Yeah. I mean, in general, there weren't that many resident, light shows that were lucky enough to have that or have a rear projection screen. It's just theaters. It's it's a difficult thing to pull off. You got to have the right conditions. So most people are just bringing it in and out and projecting front wise. I like front projection though. I personally like seeing the audience and, I like to get the feel of the room and all that, and informs what I do.
And they see you.
Back in the day too.
And they see you, yeah.
You could hit the band with it. So like the singer, you might hit with a big yellow oil or something, and he shows up more than the rest of the, so that it was part of it too. Okay, you ready for the next one, Robert?
Yeah.
There you go.
So this one is, so Mandala split in Open Light that we saw, and Bar Museum. And Bar Museum was more doing performance after the splitting or record. So they design many record. This is for Gong and Magma, mainly with slides again. They mix slides.
Excuse me, I didn't where were these guys from? Now they're both from France?
Both from France. France was a big scene. We all, I forgot to say, we all saw Mark Boyle in France. He toured in France in 68, 67 in France.
Oh, wow.
And we all saw him and got the ID from him.
Yeah. So you saw him first come to France on tour.
Yeah.
And then
in my case, I saw him in London.
But you saw, right. But other light shows who didn't get a chance to go to London. And this would have been with the soft machine that he was touring with, or was this his art performances?
Yeah.
Or was there? I'm sorry, I should say there, because it's not just Mark. It was Joan as well. So they were touring. They were doing their own performance sometimes. Yeah.
But they were touring with soft machine mainly. And in 68, they toured the US.
Yeah.
With Jimi Hendrix and soft machine. And I read about something when they were in San Francisco.
Yeah.
All the light showmen from San Francisco say, "Wow, what are these liquids?" Which show that the idea was different.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it must have been great. I heard a story. I don't know where I read it, but that him and Glenn McKay kind of got together and traded secrets, and then also kind of like, I don't know if it's true or not, but I read it somewhere that they kind of agreed that they're going to keep their method secret because they didn't want a lot of other people to start doing what they were doing. And so, that's where maybe some of the secrecy, because I know that light shows kind of have like a reputation for being secretive about their methods.
At the time, we project ourselves because if we were too many, there was less,
there'd be too many,
less money and less clubs and less band.
Well, Boyle does some interviews on Jimi Hendrix documentaries. So, but he doesn't talk too much about light shows. He does mention that he's with the Soft Machine. He's doing a light show. But they're asking him questions about Hendrix, of course. There we go.
So that's the last very good one from France, Vasco. In fact, in '68, he was a designer of many agitprop posters from Mai 68 in France. He designed them, print them, and then later he began a light show. His light show was very unusual, all black and white.
Oh, really?
Very strange machine.
Wow.
He was very close to the kinetic world or to the Bauhaus.
So all these machines here are black and white projections.
Yeah, he designed all the machines are mainly mask moving. The big wheels is a kind of Optikinetic wheel special on a projector. On the right, he has a system that we use also. You see a bit more on the right. Yeah, this is what we call it peak parrot beaks. In fact, it's something which is moving very rapidly by hand, and you alternate between two slides very rapidly.
Oh, so like there's different slides. I mean, on each side of the there's one projector on each side, and it's kind of sort of like a strobe wheel.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of the Jerry Abrams strobe wheel, where he had the cutouts. Now you just have the blocks that go and then make it.
We use for us. We prefer to do with ends. So the two projectors are superimposed, and with ends. And with the ends, what is good, it's not on off. It could be if you stretch your finger. It's not a completely on, not a completely off. It's a kind of mixing, manual mixing.
I've seen it on old magic lanterns. Old magic lanterns actually have these like you're saying, like fingers that would kind of come and so when they would dissolve. I've tried to make it, but I've never made it successfully. But I guess it would be like a dissolve, because when you put your fingers in, it kind of, you get half the light, right? Or you get part of the light, and as it's angled down, then slowly cuts it out. I would love to see that in action.
Usually, we had a kind of other slide which was a background.
Yeah.
So you don't get the complete black or.
But so you have one in the background and the flash on top.
And the flash too.
Yeah.
And so, and again, this is this Vasco used it was all black and white show.
Nearly projecting some.
That's so unusual and cool. And where does the name 15,000 come from?
In France, we know him by the name Vasco, but I saw that Putter called him 15,000 light show, and on some poster but we knew him by Vasco. Vasco is his real name. Vasco Gasquet. And if you Google Vasco Gasquet, you will find books of his poster from the Agitprop May 68.
Yeah, cool.
Next one. Okay, so I think this the two last is to say I begin light show in 68. I hibernate or went underground from 75 to 2008. I begin to be a photographer. Many of us has to earn a living. Light show was not making us earn a correct living. So I think the change of a period where many of us stopped was because we were not young anymore. So we had to make a real living. The period changed, and the music was not the same. The clubs invest in automatic machine rather than paying light show.
Oh yeah.
Our UK friends, light show friends, I don't have a grudge on them. Many of them began to open wholesale lighting industry firms, Optikinetics, Cerebrum, Pluto. Their material is still used by a few light shows, and so all this. So we had to find other jobs. A bit like Joshua at the time also. He found another job. So for me, I found a job as a scientist and also as a photographer I will show you an example of my photography.
What kind of science did you do?
I was an ATC, air traffic controller scientist. I was designing tools.
Oh, wow.
For the controllers.
Oh, cool.
It was very nice. Free
Yeah.
travel, good pay. And I was doing photography in parallel.
Amazing.
So in 2008, a museum called me, saying, are you able to recreate a light show? I immediately say yes. but then I had problem to find back all the small pieces, the motors, the color wheels, the slides I had kept. Yeah? But the nightmare was to find all the rig, all the projector, and I was associate as I could not find a full light show. Many have been were not there anymore. I was associate with one founder of Open Light. Mm-hmm. So instead of being competitor,
right? Then you went together.
We were, for the first time we were together. It was a 3-day festival exhibition.
Wow. Yeah,
it was superb. Huh? The groups were some from the pioneer groups. There was Kevin Ayers of the Soft Machine. Mm-hmm. There was Tim Blake, and many new groups. And from that, I say to myself, you are too old enough to go with 4 or 5 projectors and to manage them alone. So there should be some new technology. So that, from that, maybe next slide, I went to use, like Chris, modern tools. I didn't leave digital analog world. I turned to digital tools, but it's still analog. The material is still analog.
The material is analog, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's beautiful.
So that's
it's really similar to what I do. Same style. Yeah.
Same software, but like Steve has said in some comments, we don't use this type of software like VJs.
Right. Yeah.
We use it as a piano for our loops, for our visuals. We use it for the mixer. Mm-hmm. We use it instead of a motor. You can have something turn. It's I don't understand when some people are mad about digital. For me, this is more handmade than some Optikinetics wheels or some simple liquid wheels. This is more creation. So there you see me in the middle. You see me on stage with my computer and with Jeff Mills.
Oh, there you are.
Jeff Mills is a famous DJ, and I'm playing with Jeff Mills in Italy. It's also easy to travel. I just have to when the scene is already plugged with a projector, and many clubs, many theaters are. You just have to come with your computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what I do, Robert, is I use like 3 computers and I mix them with a mixer, like this program you're using. And then I mix them together on another channel, on another mixer. So I'm able to get like these 3 and 4 layers like we did back in the 60s or 70s or whatever.
Yeah.
So quite similar, and your style looks a lot like stuff I just posted today on the Lightshow site. So
is this the last slide? Can I
bring us go back to 3 of us?
I think this is a good time to do for discussions. I think this is like a worthy discussion because you guys use computers and there's a lot of talk in our community about analog versus digital, and of course these are just like all opinions and everybody feels this differently about it. My own feeling on it, I like to use both. I like to use a computer because you have the power of the technology there, but I also for my work at least, I think it's important to have some kind of analog thing that is there that's natural, that I can move by hand, that I can actually touch and also perform with live in addition to the computer. I don't know if it's because I like to touch things or I like there to be some kind of a physical thing. Part of it too is I also think because of
Steve, I have a MIDI MIDI control thing, and you can piano on that. You can do mixer, you can do moving. I use my hand as much as in analog.
Right.
I can do the same that I was doing with the hands in the digital things.
See,
I have 3 Akai's. I have the 3 computers, and I have 3 Akai mixers that go to each computer, and so I'm doing multiple mixing, and then it's multiple mixing on the other screen over here. So, but the thing I think what we're talking about too is, and Robert and I both, is we're able to do a complete light show with one guy.
Right.
Yeah, I would love to have Pete doing liquids, or you doing liquids, and me doing, and mix the 2 of us. But it's just so unaffordable these days.
It's hard. Yeah. It's tough to bring around. See, I like to also bring, some kind of a physical thing there, because one, I also think that people get it when people see like a laptop. Sometimes they might confuse you. They might not know what you're doing, but if they see like a visual thing and they look and they see some liquids or something shiny like moving on a plate, and then they go, oh, they see on a screen, then they realize, oh, so suddenly it becomes less confusing. The computer, and I agree with you guys, it's a very powerful tool, and I think you can play it just as well, but I think it's hard for the audience to understand sometimes by seeing that.
Except for me, the performance is on the screen, on the band, not you.
Right. Sure.
Right. Yeah. For me too. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. It is. It does. Ultimately, that does matter. Yeah.
But sometimes, when you're mixing like an Art Chaos or something, and there's this little box up in the corner, has a little box up there. It feels like you're playing a little video game or something until you actually look at the stage and see that, oh, wow, I'm doing a 40 by 20 foot image.
It
feels like you're playing something funny, It's weird. I've had that problem sometimes where I'm like, oh, this is kind of Mickey Mouse, but it's not.
You realize how powerful, the image that you're doing is, just from like little sliders.
I forget to say, I see now that I forget to say that one of the other reasons why in around 75, many light shows stopped or went underground was because many of the promoters were wanting to go from a group, a music band, to a band with one guy in front. There is a famous case with Doors not wanting anymore, and we had similar in France and in UK, and many of the groups of this time, instead of being the Animals, begin to be Eric Burdon and the Animals, Van Morrison and the Thems, and the them instead of them. So the promoters were trying to push forward one guy, one face, and they didn't like our way to light the full band.
The whole band, and take the star power away. We talked about this on one of our other shows, how you were saying like some of the other people, Rod Stewart or people like that, who weren't really, who were more like the star, suddenly and that's like when the beginning of the like rock idol worship, I guess, happened.
Even the Pink Floyd, stopped to having a light show.
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah,
there's an interview with Bill Graham where he says, and I haven't said this in the show yet, but interview I heard by Bill, he says, I had paid the light show $200, but Rod Stewart wants 2 more spotlights on him, and that's $100 each, so I can't afford the light show. I got to have the spotlights. So that's sort of one of the things that happened around 73.
Well, it's nice too now with with technology that you don't need, that's one of the benefits of technology now. A lot of times a venue will have a big projector, and you could use some kind of desktop setup, and you don't have to bring all this gear. It's not labor intensive. And I feel very strongly that this is why we're seeing this renaissance, since about like the late 2000s through today. We're seeing like a renaissance of more and more light shows coming to do it, because I think it's just easier. It's more accessible, now for like the same, what it costs to get like a cheap guitar and a cheap amp, like a cheap Fender Squier and a cheap practice amp. You can get yourself an inexpensive projector and an old laptop or an old video mixer and some kind of like, obsolete video device, and glitch it out and project.
You have to have a good laptop, huh? A good graphic card.
But I'm saying you can do it but you can, if you go down to lower resolution, you stay at like 640 by 480. I know, but you could still, you can still use that for, depending on if you're going to do like, let's say you're a local bar, not for like upper end stuff, but if you're going to do like a local band, some and a local kid or younger person wants to get involved, like it's just as easy for them to bring a light show to a small venue as it is for your local starting band to go and perform. And I think we're going to see more and more light shows come, as now that the technology is accessible.
So what we're going to see
just before closing, we didn't give all the names of all the European pioneers light show.
Please.
We missed many.
Please. Yeah.
And still we'll put a link. We are sorry for them, but sometimes we didn't have illustration, so we cannot stay many. So Steve will put I think a link to put a land index of light show, which is trying to list all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll definitely give credit. And, and again, our podcast, it's like a 45-minute, 1 hour long podcast. It's not it's a conversation. It's not a definitive history, but we try to do what we can. So we'll definitely add links and give people places to look these light shows up.
Just before I leave, are we too late?
Show us some of that stuff. Yeah.
Just an example of my going to photography.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So you will see it a kind of bar style also, very black and white.
Oh, cool.
So thank you, guys.
Yeah. So is this it for?
Where we're at is we're right at 50 minutes, and we're going to see a bunch more really good color stuff on Robert's next episode 2.
Yeah.
And a little bit more modern. So I'm looking forward to that, and we got to set that up. So let's say goodbye for episode 1 here.
Yeah. Well, episode 8.
Episode 8, part one.
And now we're going to go to episode 8, part 2. And Robert's going to tell us more about and also some of the technology and projectors. So thank you so much, Robert. And
pleasure.
Very, very glad. It's our real pleasure to have you here, and we appreciate you so much taking the time to come and talk to us. So stick around, everybody, and part 2, episode 8 is coming up. Thanks.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.